medical rep job, my supervisor there asked me, he said, which company are you joining, by the way? And I said, I'm not joining no pharmaceutical company. I'm Hotelier. He said, yeah. What are you doing? Then I'm joining the overall hotel, the management training. He said, yaar, tu sari umar tu logon ki jhuti plate. That was those were the little words. If you and me can't run a hotel in this country, then nobody can. So this whole concept of India of a desk in the lobby with the guest relations executive calling up every room saying, I hope your room's okay, at some stage made sense. In today's world, it still happens in some hotels. I think it's horrible. So it's your job to make sure your room is good. Not have to ask for every meal, or you put your spoon into your mouth and the guy comes and says, I hope your meal is okay. So the point is, it's okay to get that feedback once he's finished his meal. And if a guest in passing is walking around and say, I hope you're comfortable, you have something to say, you pick it up. But to check and be very ornamental in that area of, is this okay, is that okay, that okay? My thing is, you make sure those things are okay. Why should they not be okay? Why would you have a person checking the things that are okay? Then they should all be okay.
Do you think India is still a market to invest in terms of hotels, as tourism is increasing, pilgrimage tourism, as we have seen in the last 4 years?
I think India is not a great market to invest, not from the demand-supply point of view. From the demand-supply point of view, it's huge. But the capital costs of putting up a hotel are huge. The cost of land are very high. Even in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the smaller cities, land costs are stupidly high. And we still have high rates of interest. We have long gestation periods. We have loans that one needs to repay in a period of 2 years plus 8 years. And that makes it very difficult. So logically, if one has a certain amount of money and he wishes to invest, the hotel business is not the best place to invest.
Welcome to the show, and today I am very blessed and I am very fortunate to have the industry. I don't have any words to explain that luminary of our industry with whom I'll be conversing for the next few minutes and few hours, because we look up to the journey, the skills and the strategic management, how did SAROVAR hotels came into existence and how they succeeded to be one of the most prominent brand of Indian hospitality industry. Today, I am being joined in this conversation by none other than Ajay Bakaya, sir. So we welcome you today at our hospitable couch.
Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you very much.
Pleasure is all mine, sir, to share a few seconds of your life with me. I'm truly blessed and grateful, sir. How are you feeling today? Like, we are going to have this conversation. I'm very excited and nervous at the same time.
Well, I'm not nervous. It's always positive and exciting to be part of something in the making.
Thank you so much, sir, for helping out our audience, those who will be watching for the conversation, for the betterment of their decision making in the near future. By the time I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to a defense person or defense general of that kind, because that inoculation of that voice is so alarming that I feel that I'm in august company of some commander. So has that been inculcated over the years, that commanding or something?
I'm not sure where it comes from, but yeah, it's a high level of discipline.
All right.
And I certainly wasn't that when I was growing up as a kid or in my earlier days in the hotel business, but eventually it kind of fell in place. And I think to be successful in any enterprise, business or personal, one has to have a strong level of personal discipline.
Did anyone in your previous years told you the same thing, that they feel such kind of thing?
I heard it before, but I haven't seen a whole lot of role models. But my role models come from sport.
All right.
My role models come from people who were not necessarily supremely talented,
okay,
but worked to get a certain level. And I think that's been my story too. I think there have been many more rock stars in the hotel business than me, many more people better gifted, better talented. But I just have this ability to keep chipping away day after day after day. And I think that takes you a long way. There is a lot to be said about the incremental value of a daily investment into discipline, into finance, into anything.
Something can we focus upon that incremental value that you just mentioned?
I think the message is very clear. If you take 9 women together and tell them all to make one baby, they can't do it in 1 month. It still takes 9 months. So one's got to understand that a lot of things will take time. And it's not always the right thing to expect things to happen yesterday, per se. It hasn't been done before, but I'm going to do it in 1/10 of the time. Maybe you can, and if you aspire to do that, you must have a clear blueprint as to how you want to achieve it, not just a story in the air.
Exactly.
So I think the Rome wasn't built in a day, and business, while you get new ideas every day, it's a challenge to put things into efficient and effective practice, and discipline certainly helps. There are days when you don't want to start a day on a high. You know, we all have them. There are days when you don't want to roll out of bed. But if you have the discipline to say has to be done, must do it, and you roll out of bed, the rest of the day is beautiful. It's a start that is tough. So I think personal discipline is important, and unless you have personal discipline, you will not have strong professional discipline. To go hand in hand.
How does somebody that if
Well, first of all, the goal has to be realistic.
all right,
For the individual, we all have different capacities, and one's got to test oneself. Unless you test yourself, you don't know what you're capable of doing. But start with a goal that is realistic. Start with a goal that is measurable. If it's not measurable, it's only philosophy and story. And stories don't take you very far. So you got to say, something as simple as, I'm going to lose 5 kilos of weight in 6 months. So okay, then you don't check after 5 months and 29 days what's happened. You say week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So you break it down. So goals have to be real, and I think to start with, one must start with smaller goals. Make sure you achieve. There is nothing better than a high of achieving something.
exactly.
So you set yourself a standard, achieve it. Then you set yourself a higher mark and a higher mark and a higher mark. But goals must always be measurable. Goals must be real. They can be ambitious. Somebody did say, I want to go to the moon, and did it. But there needs to be a plan in place which makes you achieve your goal. It can't just be, I will do it because I want to do it. It will not happen. I'll give you an example. I was into climbing a lot, and I kept saying to people, I'm going to climb Everest one day. I'm going to climb Everest one day. And then one friend of mine said to me, well, okay, but what are you doing about it? And I said to him, what should I be doing about it? And he said, stop talking about it. Go do a mountain climbing program somewhere. Equip yourself better to be able to achieve the feat. So I think real goals, realistic goals, and very clear, measurable benchmarks along the way, proper milestones as to how you're going to get to that goal.
All right. So how did that mountain climbing happen, or did it not happen?
I didn't climb Everest, but I climbed Kilimanjaro, which is 20,000 feet, and that wasn't so bad. And then I have knee issues, so my mountain climbing days are over. But it's just one of those things.
Do you continue to cycle now?
I cycle now, yes.
All right. Because that is also being scripted with your name description in 2017 that you cycle more than 1,000 kilometers.
I started cycling because I couldn't run anymore. I used to do a lot of half marathons.
All right.
And then I developed knee injury, so there was no more long distance running. So I said, what next? So cycling is the transition from running. There's less impact on the knees. I had a fairly serious accident on the bicycle about 8 months ago. And amongst other things, I had to go through a hip replacement surgery. But I'm back, and I'm doing my 100 kilometers again on a Sunday morning.
Wishing you a very good health and very good speedy recovery.
Thank you.
With these talks, what I can make out is that it is contradicting the statements of I'm not harming anybody's emotional values or feelings, but you might have also come across these statements like in the hotel business, people from scratch to upper management level, they do not get time for themselves. And you being sportious in the hotel business, I think people would be just imagining how.
So it's a huge mistake because life goes by very quickly. And then you sort of look back and say, what have I done? So your life's got to be more than work, earn a living, Make sure you have a better life for your wife and kids, for yourself. You have a home, you have a car, etc. And stop getting into bigger and bigger and bigger on just those things. But you got to get away and focus on what really gives you happiness. It can be anything, different things with different people. What really makes you happy, and make sure you find the time for it. When I grew up in the hotel business, it was a very unforgiving, a very highly demanding industry. And in the private sector, there were only two companies. There was Oberoi and there was Taj. And typically you didn't leave one and join the other. So there was really one company that you were part of. And it was competitive and it was tough. So I grew up in a scenario where I knew my work and my hotels much more than I knew my kids.
Oh.
And I remember one day in Hyderabad, Mr. Kishan Lal Chugh, who was chairman of VST Hyderabad and then became head of ITC at one time. He said to me, he said, Ajay, I set up Bhadrachalam paper boards. I know every stone in that village. I can give you the exact transition of the company and where we are today from where we started. But I don't know my kids so well. So he said, don't make the mistake of going through life. And when you have the time, they won't have time for you. But we went through that scenario, but it was if you wanted to succeed, you were at the job, on the job, all the time. And we didn't know any better. But even then, you found time out. I mean, people laugh. I used to do split shifts in Bombay in food and beverage, and between the two split shifts, I got out in my shorts and went running around Marine Drive. So and took other people with me. So I think you got to find ways to switch off. You got to find ways to enrich yourself in other manners than just your work.
What really matters to develop a mindset like this?
The ability to switch off there. When you walk out of the job, and the realization that whatever you do, you're not God, and some things will go wrong. And I ask myself a question even today before I go to sleep. Did you do your best? The answer is yes, then don't worry about anything else.
And what if the answer is no? Has that happened any time in life?
It happens, we're human, it happens. And you make sure tomorrow the answer is better.
All right,
yes.
Sir. Taking back 46 enormous good years in the industry as an active hotelier. 46 years back, what intrigued you? Like, what skill set did you have that cemented your fascination to step into the world of hotels?
It was pure accident.
All right.
I had no intention, no plan. I had no understanding of hotels. As a person from the middle income bracket, you never visited hotels. They were far too expensive. The good ones, and the rubbish never mattered anyways. So I did my schooling in Shimla. I did my college in Delhi University, and I wasn't a particularly bright student. My thing was get out of home, pick up a job. So since I did a bachelor's of science, the most available job was the medical representative. That's how I started my career.
With which company?
Pharmaceuticals, first with Jeffrey Manners out of Udaipur, and then with Indian Sharing, what is now part of the large Bombay company. I'm forgetting the name. It'll come.
Let's bypass that.
Yeah, it'll come to me. And out of Jalandhar. And one fine day on a Sunday in Jalandhar, I was reading my Sunday newspaper, and there was a big, huge ad of management trainings for Oberoi Hotels. And I said, "Chalo, let's try it. What is it all about?" In fact, I was studying to pass the IPS exam. I wanted to become a police officer.
Okay.
And so the Oberoi happened, and it was really pretty much a chance thing that happened. And I've been happy in the business, I must say, every single day out of these 46 now, almost 47 years.
I think this accidental hoteliers have proved to be the best in the country. And the common point that I can now make out is hailing from Shimla. Shimla means I happen to be in the talks with Nakul Anand sir. He did his schooling from Shimla. Diwan Gautam Anand sir did from Shimla. And then you come from Shimla.
Call was in Shimla for a while.
Yes.
Rakesh Batra was the same school. Yeah. Well, I think small towns more than anything else. We were brought up in a school system where the Irish and British Christian brothers taught us. So I think one thing that came out of it was good English language, and that helps you in the hotel business.
All right. Out of the context, what I want to ask is like we have seen all the growth trajectory of all people like these hoteliers, young, very dynamic, and even till today means I don't find anybody else at that era. My question is, key in today's world where we have ample of resources around us, we are equipped with technology.
Mm-hmm.
Are we making ourselves better, or the times when you were struggling in your era, that was better because the dedication and determination of achieving or establishing something came from the vacancy of those resources?
I think, quite honestly, there were different qualities then for a different world. There are different qualities required today for today's world. But I think, honestly, the best system is always today's system.
Okay.
Because today's system banks on a whole lot of evolution and a whole lot of experience of what's worked and not worked in the past. And there is hope for the future. So one's always sort of evolving and saying, how can I do this better tomorrow? I can do this better tomorrow. So the key, I won't say that was better or this is better. I'd say this is more awake, more happening, more dynamic. And there is this constant evolution that happens. The key is to always keep thinking of how can I make this a little better, a little better, a little better. So I've got a yoga teacher of almost 20 years now. And when we're doing something, she says, a little more, a little more, a little more. This is 20 years down the line. So I worked with the Japanese boss in Sydney. And every time we had to print a form or print anything, he said, Ajay, what have you improved? What have you changed? Now, do we think of anything to do with forms when you look at forms? Because a lot of people don't even look at them. So I think the thing is to constantly look at improving.
Okay.
Even if you have a function going particularly well or gets particularly happy, so how can I add more value to this experience tomorrow or the next time? And if you then push all your teams into thinking on the same lines, you have always a system and a hotel and an industry that's evolving for the better.
At your early age with the Oberoi, when you stepped in for your interview and management trainee program and all, goes without saying that you might have as a mentor Rai Bahadur MS Oberoi sir. So do you think that mentorship also has an equally important role in someone's journey of being whatsoever they are in life?
Huge. Especially at the earlier stages of your career when you're very malleable. Mm-hmm. And you look at these people as role models, and they've achieved what was impossible to achieve, and they have a lot of wisdom to impart.
Any learnings that you can share with your real-time experience in the Oberois?
With Rai Bahadur, well, I was young GM in Hyderabad at the Oberoi, and my boss, Mr. Madok out of Bombay, told me, Ajay, when you go to Delhi, ask him for his time. So our interaction before that was really at the early interview stages, and then we had very little interaction with the chairman. And I met him 2 or 3 times, and he had my hotel file next to him. He knew more about my hotel in some cases than I did, and he had simple answers.
Okay.
So we were having issues on operator and owner relationships, etc. And I said something to him, and I took a long time explaining it to him. And his answer was 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 2.5, saying this is what you should be doing. So it's always a certain level of simplicity that people with that kind of experience handle things. And that experience is immense, absolutely. So yes, those role models, those mentors, Rai Bahadur, MS Oberoi, Mr. PRS Oberoi, these were phenomenal hoteliers in their own right.
And what makes them phenomenal? Like you have spent some time with them.
I would equate it with, I talked about my school. We had these Christian brothers coming out of Irish missionary establishments or British missionary establishments all the way to India. They had dedicated their lives to educating kids in Shimla or in India. The commitment was immense and more than 100%. Similarly, whether it was Rai Bahadur, whether it was Mr. Biki, whether it was Anil Madok, my more immediate boss and mentor and friend and SAROVAR's founder, their dedication to their role, to their larger role and to their immediate business was complete and extreme. And they had human failings. They were all human beings, so they were not gods. But if one is to measure them, you'd always measure them as professionals by their ability to set standards that never existed, to create hotels that never existed, to take people to a different level of performance. And that's what a leader is all about, when you can take ordinary people into extraordinary performances.
Was it easier then to get into the hotel business or now? Because going through your life perspective, we see that you have been a general manager of a hotel at a very young age. And today we see people struggling to retain in the industry. So both the things are not, going hand in hand. That is why I want to ask that.
I think perhaps it's easier today.
All right.
Because at our stage, jobs were very few and far between. Good jobs are few and far between. Yes, hospitality wasn't the preferred choice. A lot of people didn't sort of fancy it very much. In fact, when I got my job offer and I quit the medical rep job, my supervisor there asked me, he said, "Which company are you joining, by the way?" And I said, "I'm not joining no pharmaceutical company. I'm Hotelier." He said, yeah. What are you doing? Then I'm joining the Uber Hotel, the management training. He said, "यार तू सारी उम्र तू लोगों की झूठी प्लेट उठा करेगा." Those are the literal words. And I said, "Well, we'll see how it goes." So good jobs weren't available easily. And we came to know this later, for the 20 management training slots that were available there in that year, there were 6,000 applicants.
Oh.
And the overall had taken a decision not to take people from a hotel school because they wanted people to start off from scratch and not have any baggage in their minds. Okay. So we got lucky. So today, the demand for hotel jobs is a lot lesser. People find it extremely antisocial. There are long hours. You're working when everyone else is having fun. And that doesn't really change very much. And, we recently started a management training program, and I'm interviewing people for the second year now. And there is a small percentage that want to be chefs. There is a tiny percentage that want to be housekeepers. There's a microscopic percentage that wants to be in F&B service. Everybody else wants to be in front office. They want to be front office because front office
jobs
is 8 to 9 hours, and they all say we love to meet people, etc. But the reality is, it's a job where Saturday, Sundays are quieter. By and large, you can go home, or there's a day or two in a week when it's more predictable, it's easier, more manageable. So I think bigger opportunity today for somebody who really wants to get in there to make his mark and go up the ladder quickly. But as I said, 9 women can't produce a baby in 1 month. So it still takes 9 months, and you got to give it time. I think one gets lucky. So the key factors for success are, number one, are you mobile? So you're not restricted to, want to be close to my house, want to be close to my girlfriend, want to be, can't leave my parents, all those things. All those things have a certain weightage in life. One must decide what one's priorities are. But the more mobile you are, the faster you go up. And the good part about this business is that somebody's paying for your travel and somebody's putting you up all the time. So, traveling is not costing you anything at all. So that's one. 2 is flexibility. 3 is, if you put your hand up all the time, say, I'll do it. Most people, when somebody else goes, who's going to, people duck, let somebody else do it. So even if it's not your work, and say, I'll do it, in addition to what you're normally doing, you get more and more chances, you get better recognition.
Yeah,
I was lucky. I made it to GM at the age of 28. I was GM of a hotel overseas.
That is a very fascinating fact, because at that time, being a GM at the age of 28 is something I don't think it has been possible in many lives of people like, I don't purposely naming them, but 28 and GM of such a beautiful properties in that time. So it's challenging.
So 28, I ran away to Africa. I was GM in Liberia. Same thing. There weren't too many people who would venture out to Africa. Even today, we have hotels in Africa and wonderful hotels and great cities. But when I talk to people, somebody says to me, "Sir, please don't send me to Africa. मेरे को Singapore भेज दीजिए." And we don't have Singapore opportunities anyways. But the thing is, are you willing? I remember an interview in London where the gentleman who was recruiting asked me, he said, "Look, everything is good about you. Why do you want to go to Liberia?" And I said to him, "To make money." He said, "Okay." He said, "That's a very honest answer." And I went on and worked there, and I learned lots and lots and lots of things. And I was not ready to be a GM, by the way. And then at 31, I was GM of an Uber Hotel.
Yeah. What contributed to your success at an early age?
The ability to take your chances and to take a few risks. and not play too safe.
Okay.
In fact, I perhaps took too many chances, but I was always willing to say, what's the next step? What's the next step? And not in a hurry. I mean, you need to be ready to take on that next step.
Were you nervous at that time taking up a role of a GM at the age of 31
For sure.
and that too with
For sure.
the Oberoi Hotels?
Yeah, for sure. But then you had models to follow, and you said, look, how, the basic was, if you're sincere and you put in the hard work, results will follow. End of the day, it's a lot of common sense. So you learn as you go along on the job.
Shifting from a medical representative to so and so, I'm not talking about the industry, I'm talking about family. What did it change in your personal life, and how did family perceived it?
My parents were unhappy that I made the change because pharmaceuticals meant that most medicine, if you needed in the family, came in easily available, largely unpaid for or paid at subsidized rates. That's one big thing. I was earning good money. So when I moved from pharmaceuticals to hotels, I took a drop of 60-70% in my earning. So they said, have you gone mad? Why would you do that? But I did that because I could see a better future.
Okay.
And there's a big change. I wasn't married, but I was seeing my wife now at that time, and she was supportive, and her folks thought it was a good idea anyway. So as long as the partner is with you, it becomes a little easier. And I went into it. Also, I don't look back into too many things because that's water under the bridge. So if you've taken a decision, you move on. Instead of taking a decision and looking back all the time saying, was this right, was it wrong, you're only confusing yourself.
Exactly.
And some things will work out and some things won't work out. But you sort of move on into the next day and the next day and the next. And hotels is really, really simple. You learn, you keep your eyes open, you apply yourself with a lot of sincerity. It has to come from here. And if it's coming from the heart and you're willing to put in the hard work, and that hasn't changed in 47 years. You still need to work hard to be a good hotelier. Then the results will always come.
So which discipline in the hotels attracted you amongst the 4 or 5 that we have?
At that time, the kitchen.
The kitchen, okay. So what do you cook the most? What are you good at?
I don't cook very much right now, but I went on to do an MBA in France.
Okay.
And I then took, when I finished the MBA, it took 6 months, and I worked in a very upper end luxury kitchen with a celebrity chef for 6 months in the kitchen. I was in love with the kitchen, and then you move on to
Different
other things.
roles.
Different
Okay. When you stepped into SAROVAR Hotels and having a background in hotels and then a few experience of marketing, I would say, when you were a medical representative, how did you develop that entrepreneurial mindset that was being required in when you're taking up the SAROVAR Hotels?
SAROVAR was my second venture at being an entrepreneur.
All right.
The first one was a failure.
So let's decode that because not many people know that, as I do not know.
So when I worked in Hyderabad as GM with the Oberoi, and then I said to myself, well, okay, but what next? What next? And one of the things that bothered me at that time was that I'd been through an MBA in Europe, where in 2 years we had 45 nationalities. I was one of the smarter kids out there. And I was working in India, which is still fairly insular and not exposed to the rest of the world. So I said, look, I need to GM, fine, but I want to prove myself on a very international scenario.
At that age, you were so ambitious.
Yeah, so I migrated to Australia. I went out to Australia without a job. And
you were married?
A lot of people, I was married, I had 2 kids, and I was very happily settled in the hotel in Hyderabad, and my family thought I'd gone mad completely. But anyways, we packed up. So the agreement with my wife was that I'll go there for 2 weeks. I was really, really, really wanted to do this. She said, if you wanted, go ahead, you spend the money and do this. And the agreement was I'd go through as many interviews as possible. If I had a job offer, we'd move to Australia. If I didn't, I'll give up the dream and forget all about it. So in 2 weeks, in 10 working days, I went through 25 interviews.
Okay.
From universities to flight caterings, to hotels, to teaching, to clubs, to whatever you can think, whatever I could manage. And these are the free internet days, so you had to arrange all these meetings, either by fax or letters and stuff like that. So anyway, I went through those meetings, and I did not have a job at the end of the 2 weeks, which is not uncommon. It's difficult to walk away with an offer when you don't know the country at all. You had no clue what the country was all about. But I felt so good about the place, I said, I have to do this. So I came back and I said to my wife, let's pack up, we're going. And So we moved into Australia. I did not have a job, but in the first week that I was there, I had my first job offer. In the second week, I had a job offer that I accepted, and I worked with it was then Japanese owned and Japanese managed. It's today the Hyatt Regency on Darling Harbour, Sydney. It's the largest hotel in the country now.
All right.
900 plus rooms. And I worked in Australia for 3 years. And this was a large hotel. So you would be often standing at the reception in the morning, helping with checkouts and things to the rest of the team. You had 6 different queues, 6 deep happening, and somebody at the back said, "Look, I'm in a bit of a hurry. Can you help?" And I helped him check out, etc. I didn't know who the person was, and he said to me, "Here's my card, and let's chat." So I said, "Okay." And this was somebody who would settle down there, and he had. He'd just been given the right to manage a hotel that was going through a transition. So he said, "Come and join me." So I moved from Nico into a Park Lane hotel. Everything possible went wrong with that hotel in the initial stage. Beautiful hotel, luxury hotel. That's now a Sheraton Luxury Collection. And I was there at number 2. I worked there for a year. I really thoroughly enjoyed myself. And then a friend of mine who'd worked with us in the Oberois. He was a year journeyman in the Oberoi system, and he'd gone into the kitchen. And when I left Liberia, Africa, I hired him to go there. So he worked there, and then he found his way to Prague in the Czech Republic.
Okay.
And set up his own restaurants and things, and did brilliantly. He's still there, so 30 years plus down the line. And I found him on a magazine I was reading about hotels and things like that. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, do you need an assistant?" He said, "Ajay, I don't need an assistant, I need a partner."
Oh.
So why don't you come and we'll have a chat? So I flew across to Prague. We talked about hotels and his restaurant business. And I said to him, "No." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Look, you've done all the hard work. You set it all up. You have a flourishing business. If I come here, I'm going to be stepping onto your toes. It doesn't make sense." And I said, "Look, after Sydney, Prague, this was just after the Soviet Union had sort of gone into the background, and Prague was just beginning to rebuild or find its own feet." So a few months later, he came back and he said, "Look, I understand. We've set up a business in Amsterdam, at the fashion center, and we'll be importing whatever you think we can sit together and think of and selling it. We set up a trading business. I give you a share of the business. You tell me what you want and come along." So I packed my bags from Australia. I went to Holland. and that venture, we started selling men's shoes and men's shirts, on container roads. That venture never really took off the way it was meant to. He ran out of money. So finally, I was at crossroads when I had nowhere to go. And my option was to go back to Australia. And I was getting a job in a new city altogether. And my wife said to me, "Enough of this drama. I want to settle down somewhere more peacefully. Let's go home."
Okay, so you turned
So
back
that's
to
when
India.
I called Mr. Madhok, who'd been my boss at the Oberois. And he said, "Ajay, don't think of anything. Come back here. These are the golden years of India." So the golden years didn't really happen for many, many years down the line. But,
And which year are we talking about?
So I joined SAROVAR on 1 January 1996.
Okay.
And 96 things went down rather than went up, but then eventually things sort of took shape and lifted up. And we sat together and we said, "Okay," he said, "Ajay, if you and me can't run a hotel in this country, then nobody can."
He was that confident?
Yeah, he'd run half the company. I'd run large hotels. I knew what it was all about. And at the end of the day, it's, you knew your systems. I had come armed with a whole lot of new systems and new tech that I learned from Australia. And I could incorporate a lot of that into processes here.
And then a shared office with those 2 telephones.
Yeah. So one person from that shared office still works with us. She's senior to me in the organization. Indrani, she's our admin manager now.
How beautiful that journey would have
Yes,
been.
it was fantastic.
I'm totally into 1996 now. You fluctuating from Holland, Australia, Prague, and all.
And at every stage, people laugh at you.
They do.
And you say it's okay because in your mind, you're going to find success. And if you don't, so be it. But you're going to put everything you have in you to make it successful. And
And
we were
when
in the
you
right
get
place.
successful people like me share a smile with you, with flashing back all those memories and success.
Sure. And sometimes you don't, and a lot of people don't. But that's just part of life. But I think, as I said again and again, if you have the sincerity and if you're willing to work hard, the results will always come.
All right.
And I never thought things are going to fail. Even when they fail, I never assumed they're going to fail. You went along saying, everything will work out well. Why should it not work out well? I think back now, I went to Australia, I went for my driving test. There is a computer test and then there is an actual practical test. I passed both in the first attempt. Because in my mind, I was sure I'm going to pass. My driving is horrible. And I met a lot of people who said, impossible, Ajay, you couldn't have done it. There was a Japanese guy who would fail 3 tests and he was going for the 4th one. He was terribly low. He said, no way. But I think if you're made of hair, things work out a lot better. And yeah, we've seen downhills too. SAROVAR has not always been uphill and beautiful. We had lots of tough times. But you said, okay, let's apply ourselves some more and let's move on and get somewhere.
What was the need, if I may ask, for the SAROVAR hotels? Like, what was that thought which intrigued you to, or Anil sir, to start up?
So he had set up the company. He was the founder. I joined about a year later. It's still very, very early stages. And the thought was very simple. You had either the very top-notch hotels in the country, or you had rubbish. There's very little mid-market, almost non-existent, even in 1996. So the thought was clean hotels. You didn't have to have expensive hotels and expensive materials. You didn't have to have Italian marble. You didn't have all the brass and gold, or the fancy silver cutlery and things like that. But could you make sure that everything was spick and span and clean? So your housekeeping had to be top notch. Your food had to be very good. It doesn't matter who you're producing food for or where you're producing the food, but food can still be very good. The ingredients are similar. You don't have to pour in the most expensive ingredients to produce good food. A home produces good food. So good food, good hygiene, functional, efficient hotels where staff would be empowered, would be smiling, and would be able to do the jobs they're assigned to do.
All right.
So that was it. We started very simple, started in that category, because we knew if somebody's building very large hotels, they'd go to the larger companies. And so our opportunity was in that mid-market space that existed in a big way. There's a large vacuum, and we filled the vacuum. I think we were there at the right time.
And in those times, how did you manage to get all those capital resources, convince people
so we never invested, Rishabh. We were not investors. That makes your job even more difficult. In my mind, the management model is perhaps the most difficult of all the models to succeed, especially for a new company starting from nothing. So when we sat together, me and Mr. Madhok, and I remember that like it was, it's here. And I said to him, what's going to be different from us or anyone else who has a fax machine at home and who's run a good hotel? Because our qualification was that we run good hotels. And so we wrote down, what's our framework? What's different between us and anybody else? So we said, first of all, let us recognize that the owner is the king. He's the one who's putting in all the money. He's the one who's taking the exposure and the risk. We're providing a service. Let's be very clear about that. Our earlier learnings were somewhat unfriendly. If you're a very large company, you say, what does he know? He only has the money, but what does he know about running a hotel? So please stay away. And our concept is very different. Hey, you put in the money, you put in all the resources. If you hurt, we'll hurt with you, and we'll try to fix things. So your cash flows are what they should be. And so the first thing was the owner is the king. Please recognize your position in the pecking order, that you are working for an owner, providing certain services to an owner. Yes, you have the expertise, but at the same time, you're still providing those services or that expertise at a certain value. Second thing was, we said, however good you might be in knowing your systems and processes and running hotels, however great manager you might be, owner is always going to ask you the question, Dhanda kidhar hai? Where is the business? Everything's fine, but are you producing business for me? Are you bringing in business for me? So even in those days, we started with 3 sales offices, small ones, and these were shared offices.
And where exactly they were?
This was Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore.
Okay.
And the understanding was that you'd have people knocking on doors and asking for business from day one. So when I opened a hotel, I had people in the field who were pushing that hotel to the travel agents, to the embassies, to the conference organizers, to every possible way and mean to bring in business to the hotel. And that was very positive for the owner. And the third thing was, we said, let's be an organization where we are going to attract and retain talent at the corporate level at our cost, that owners are unlikely to attract or to retain.
Yeah.
So we started from something as simple as my executive chef at the Marine Plaza, which was one of our first hotels, was also a corporate chef.
Bombay.
Yeah. Our executive housekeeper at Marine Plaza were called corporate housekeepers, so they could travel out of their hotels and attend to the new hotels. And we had an engineer at a corporate level. We had a finance person at a corporate level. So we had support in key areas that we were providing. And today we expanded that to 16 sales offices, small cities, large cities, tier 2, tier 3, etc., from places like Lucknow and Varanasi and Jaipur, etc., where people are still knocking on doors and picking up the phone and saying, how can I get you your next hotel booking, wherever you want to go, etc., etc., etc.
Wow.
And please call me for anything. We have support services at significant cost to SAROVAR in IT, in finance, in corporate purchase, in housekeeping, in kitchen, in F&B service, any discipline you can think of. So we've got a large core team. We are just expanding our office in Gurgaon. Gurgaon is more or less our head office now, our corporate headquarters. And as we get bigger, the team gets bigger.
Exactly.
So, at that time, I could spend a Monday to Friday in one hotel because I had nowhere else to go. And now we have area directors or cluster managers. We have regional directors handling separate regions. We have a senior VP for the country. We have a CEO and I have me. But the fewer the layers, the better. It's more efficient as a system.
I think that management system that you created with these SAROVAR hotels, I think please correct me if I'm wrong, that it was the only company to do that for the first time in India with the large numbers?
To the scale that we did, it was the only company.
Okay.
It probably still is the only company. To that scale, where we have somebody for every discipline, and we are picking up all the costs. We don't share those costs with our owners.
What has changed over the years in terms of service, hospitality? I'm not talking about the business. I'm talking about the quality of service, quality of hospitality that we receive now, or you might have received it in earlier days.
I think the human angle is still pretty much the same. You have a lot of people who are genuinely interested in taking care of the customer. You have a lot of people who are doing it because it's their job, and you have a lot of people who couldn't care. And the ones who couldn't care should not be in the business. I think it's best for them to find somewhere else to be. But that's always stayed. I think the human touch was much more. We were more inefficient at that time. A lot of things didn't work. So this whole concept of India of a desk in the lobby with the guest relations executive calling up for every room saying, "I hope your room's okay," to me at some stage made sense. In today's world, it still happens in some hotels. I think it's horrible. Because it's your job to make sure your room is good. Not have to ask for every meal, or you put your spoon into your mouth and the guy comes and says, "I hope your meal is okay." So the point is, it's okay to get that feedback once he's finished his meal. And if a guest in passing is walking around and say, "I hope you're comfortable," you have something to say, you pick it up. But to check and be very ornamental in that area of, is this okay, is that okay, that okay? My thing is, you make sure those things are okay. Why should they not be okay? Why would you have a person checking the things that are okay? Then they should all be okay. But you had bigger issues with equipment that time. You had many more issues with plumbing, with electricity. So those things are better. Equipment is better. Machines are better. We are importing everything from around the world.
But all those SOPs still continue to be there in action.
Oh, they've evolved. A lot of them evolved. We had, for example, lobby managers or duty managers. Some people call them, which with your desk in the lobby, the guys there 24 hours. Not required anymore.
But still the practice is the same in many hotels?
No, most hotels have done away with them. Some cases, in some form or the other, yes, but most hotels have done away with them. And now it's the era of tech, and I think tech's going to be more and more and more, where however much we say that the human touch matters, and it matters to some people, to a lot of them it doesn't matter. They say, "I want the human touch when I want it. But I don't want it in my face."
But people have made that statement that if human touch goes away, then hospitality goes away.
I don't think that's so true.
Especially in India.
I think it's all changing, evolving as we go on. And the human touch must not disappear, but efficiency must take over. So you have human beings available to chat with if you wish to. But if you don't wish to,
That is a very fine line if somebody wants to understand that.
Yeah, I think it's important. So the sincerity of taking care of a guest in your house, it's at the end of the day, it's a guest in your house.
Exactly.
Should never go away. And that has to come from a heart. Our ethos, our culture, and most cultures, is that when somebody walks in your house, we welcome with open arms, with a smile. And when he goes out, again, you embrace, and he should be going back happy and satisfied, whatever he wants. So that fundamental principle should continue in hotels and must continue in hotels. But the question is what he wants. And if he doesn't want to be first around, if he wants for 24 hours not to see anyone, so be it. That's okay too.
Do you think India is still a market to invest in terms of hotels as tourism is increasing, pilgrimage tourism as we have seen in the last 4 years
I
that
think
is
India is
impacted?
not a great market to invest, not from the demand supply point of view. From demand supply point of view, it's huge. But the capital costs of putting up a hotel are huge. The costs of land are very high. Even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, smaller cities, land costs are stupidly
Yes.
high.
Yes.
And we still have high rates of interest. We have long gestation periods. We have loans that one needs to repay in a period of 2 years plus 8 years. And that makes it very difficult. So logically, if one has a certain amount of money and he wishes to invest, the hotel business is not the best place to invest. It's building long-term value in terms of property, etc. And it's a benefit that goes to the next generation, I suppose, more than this generation. But in terms of demand supply, how would you do? Will your business work well? Sure. The demand is colossal, and supply can never catch up.
With all those local standard operating procedures with the government policies, how tough it is to maintain a hotel or to build a hotel since you are into the hotel business and having multiple
It's
hotels?
difficult. All these approvals, etc. Not that they are at times perhaps seem unreasonable. You can understand that, but there's a lot of roadblocks that are put in place, and and in some cases it needs money. In some cases it needs sheer perseverance. In some cases you need to adapt and change. In some cases you need to give up and move on. But it is difficult. It's not easy.
All right. Anything that you can make a statement to cope up with that, because I think many people are now investing maybe mid-segment hotels or hotels like Bloom, Oyo that are multiple price friendly, I must say them, because they are nowhere in the market where you stand or where the five-star stands. So anything that you can make a statement where government needs to focus to encourage and embrace more hotels.
I think make the approvals simpler. A lot of state governments talk about a single window system. I haven't seen one anywhere.
Okay.
Because when you go to the single window, then it passes on to many more doors. So it's that much more cumbersome to get your approvals. I think, in my mind, we should see a day when the demands of the government in terms of processes, requirements, legal requirements, statutory requirements are posted on a website, and you have an application that's available for approval. You put everything up online, and either the application is accepted or is rejected on one ground or the other, saying this is not right, that's not right. You correct it and fix it. Once the application is accepted, you should get your approval in 15 days, 20 days, or a month's time.
No.
Why would anybody who's bringing in the money and creating jobs have to run around from pillar to post to get approvals?
It is persisting till now as well, no?
Big time. We own the Chandigarh, the Union Territory government came out of the scheme. This is 15 years ago. They said you can convert industrial area land into commercial. You filled in an application, it was accepted. If in 15 days you hadn't heard back from them, it was deemed to be approved.
Oh.
And so why not bring in those practices? That makes life so much easier. I'm saying the application process, the scrutiny process should be thorough, but it doesn't have to be me sitting across to somebody and saying and presenting my case. The rule should be very clear on a computer, on a system. I fill in A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever 25 forms are necessary. I've given all the information. The portal says, okay, yes, accepted, or says, not accepted for so and so reason. I apply whatever else is missing. And then if after that in 30 days, I should have my approval.
Exactly.
Why will it take longer? So I think those systems and processes need to be built in. Every state today, whether it's Kerala, whether it's Bengal, whether it is Madhya Pradesh, whether it is Rajasthan, is saying, come invest in us, come invest in us, come invest. My question is why? Why would I invest in you? Are you doing any of these things? And the state that starts off saying, hello, we'll make all this possible for you, is the one that's going to fly.
Okay.
And you have a lot of positive states in the country. You have lots of them that make it easier. But it's not still totally transparent. A lot of things are opaque. And I think more transparency needs to come into the system.
I think one day that comes.
I'm sure. I'm also the eternal optimist.
So am I. So touching back your personal life, what are those people whom do you look up to in terms of getting mentorship or your role models to excel in life? Who are those people whom do you look up to?
Specifically, my teachers. One or two from school. And then in the hospitality industry, Rai Bahadur, even though my interaction with him was small, limited. Mr. Vicky Oberoi, I interacted a lot as a GM. Mr. Madok, my mentor, boss, friend, guide, philosopher, entrepreneur, everything all rolled into one. We worked together for 25 years in SAROVAR, and before that for 4 years in the Oberois. So I think I was most influenced by him and his style. Dean Beck, who was our dean at Cornell's MBA program in France, and his one motto, which I remember till I die, was always take your work seriously, never take life too seriously.
Okay.
So that balance has to come through. You must enjoy what you're doing, but at the end of the day, it's not all your life.
I read about an article or that was a line from you that the Indian cricketer Kapil Dev had a massive influence in your life, that you had known him for years. So a bit of that.
I've known him for a long time. I've known him from the time that he was a young person. I was a lot younger myself, and I've seen the progress, and I've seen the humility in the man.
Okay.
And I can't say I'm a close friend. I haven't met him for months and years now. We bump into each other, but there were many times that I interacted with him, both in Sydney when we were there, and they all came home. The cricket team came home to Hyderabad when I was running the Oberoi, because we had a lot of opportunity for teams to come and go out. But you again were impacted by obviously the cricketing capability was superlative, but you were impacted by the simplicity of the man and the sincerity with which he attended to his métier, to his vocation.
Any incident that makes you say this, or you can recall at this moment of time and
We were on the grounds in Sydney in one cricket match. Don't ask me which one. Who was playing? India was playing somebody, and the match was going on. And halfway through, he came to pick up the ball, and we were there, so we had a bit of a chat. And he had in his mind had calculated. So he said, "We're winning this match, no problem. We'll be over in so and so time." So I think and he was calm, cool, composed about it. The thing was that it was the simplicity with which you attacked life, or with which you lived your life. That nothing was too complicated.
Right here, the question comes: when you are at the helm of the affairs, how do you manage people when five fingers are not equal, and when the days are not equal as also?
Your job as a leader is to make sure that everyone in the team is challenged to perform to a step more than what they think they can do.
How do you figure that out?
Every step you're asking the person, okay, well done, great. Can we improve a little bit more? What next? What next? And you understand that people have different capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's not going to be a star performer. Doesn't happen in the same family. So why would you expect that to happen in an organization? But as long as two or three things. One is you must remain human with your feet on the ground and not be someone who's flying up there. So to me, the parable is that when you're walking in a restaurant as a supervisor or a manager, your eyes should be on the tabletop and the guest to see if anything's missing, rather than all over the place. The super part of superhuman should not be there. So it's more human, and your supervisory power should be there. You're not a supervisor. It's not all about fancy vision. Or being superior. It's about the vision part of it. And the second thing is you must be available. Your ear must be available to people who want to talk, and allow people the right to disagree and say what they have to say. If it's sensitive, it's too strong. It needs to be in private and not in public. But disagreements should be welcomed. You should also be brutally honest with people and tell them if they're falling short, or they're actually falling short. And you do that once, you do it a second time, and if it still doesn't work out, you sit down, you shake hands, maybe offer a cup of coffee and say, mate, things are not working, you need to go. So all this has to happen side by side.
Now the question is, why to look up to Sarovar Hotels in terms of employment, plus to spend a leisure time?
Well, in terms of employment, I think the big thing is that it's a very steady ship. It's not going to rock. And it's going places. So there are growth opportunities. We just can't find enough people. We have meetings every week on how to find a GM for here or there, whatever, etc., etc., etc. And number two is GM development programs, and all of that. So there is growth beyond imagination. That's the first thing. If you're ambitious, you have enough opportunity to grow all over the place. It's an organization that has, I believe, no politics. Politics always starts from the top. And you don't have to be my man or so-and-so's man or this clique or that clique and look around and see who's listening to you and who's not. There are no boundaries that are so well defined that he can't enter my territory or this is my thing, etc. If help is needed, we go and help and make sure the job happens. So it's everyone's job. And yes, we have structures, but we don't have highly defined boundaries saying this is not your area, this is not your territory, and how dare you. So everyone's got a role to play. We are forever embracing new technology. We want to move ahead, and we have a position in the industry that we want to cement, and we want to make sure we are always at the leading edge of the mid-market game.
All right. And then
why would you go to SAROVAR for leisure?
Right.
The basic fundamentals: great food, great hygiene, smiling faces, people that want to make your stay a lot better, and we are looking and making it more and more experiential. But that's what the demand is going to be now.
Because in both the perspectives, the only differentiating factor is like people always to compare.
Yes, natural.
Always there is a comparison. That is why I was trying to ask this question, because I wanted people to understand that when there is a brand in the market or a company in the market, what makes that grow? What makes that grow in terms of numbers? Because wherever I went personally, I managed to find one SAROVAR hotel at the places where other budding players are there.
We ventured into smaller towns 20-25 years ago. So now we're all over the place. We have 80 destinations in India,
yes,
more coming in, and that's where the growth is going to be in this country.
And the way the hotels are being structured, I'm not saying just because I'm next to you, it doesn't give you a feeling that it is a mid-market hotel. It is always a feeling that when big players are there in the market, purposely not naming them, it is right up to that standard.
You can meet those standards, you can compete with
exactly, because the first sight of that hotel, the way it is being built, the way the hygiene is being maintained, and the way it is saying you something, it is saying that it is at par with those players in the market.
So I think the every business must have a philosophy.
What's the SAROVAR's philosophy?
So SAROVAR's philosophy is to make sure your guests in a hotel as you treat guests in your home. Simple, one sentence. And make sure you bring out the sincerity, make sure you bring out the heart, make sure the food's good enough, make sure the person's getting enough attention, make sure their kids are getting enough attention, etc., etc. See what the person wants to do and see if you can plan accordingly.
Your advice to aspiring students, because this program is wholly dedicated to people who are stuck with the growth, may it be in the industry, those who want to flourish their careers, endure abroad, purposely not naming, but all those students in the hotel school or aspiring to be.
My big advice is get to know the nitty-gritties, get your hands dirty. The real experience is when you do things. You do them wrong one time, 2 times, 3 times, then you get into the habit of doing them right the first time. So you must learn, and unless you practice, you're never going to learn. Ask questions all the time. Do things, experiment, look at things that are being done better somewhere else. Very often we get caught up in this business of so-and-so is doing better than me. But he's not the right person, he's doing this wrong, is that wrong? But I think one must draw back and say, what is he doing better? And can I focus there and make sure I can leapfrog and do it even better? And can I learn from him or her? So the key is to get your hands dirty, get into the role. Don't look at it from a distance. Really get into the role. The big problem in India is culturally, you have somebody helping you all the time. Sister, mother, cook, cleaner, whatever. And they say, and boys more than girls, I think, in a very patriarchal society where somebody is always doing your work for you. So let the poor man be, or let the poor boy be. So I think key is to get in there and do things yourself. Look at how somebody is doing things better. What can you learn from the person? It may be your direct competitor, it may be your friend, it may be your closest friend, it may be somebody in the next room, it may be somebody in the next hotel, but or the next company. What are they doing better than you all the time? And you need to figure out, they must be doing something right for them to succeed.
Exactly. So on that note, sir, I have learned tremendous amount of learnings that I'll be taking away right now, because I have a whole new perspective of how to approach anything in any field, any discipline. And I think mutually our audience has got the idea of what hospitality is, may it be business, may it be service, or taking risk, as you mentioned earlier, and making a work-life balance on the note that we started. And I thank you very much for your time, for your insights that you have given us, you have shared with us.
Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you for your time.
No, sir, I'm very much in August company of yours, and I look forward
Wonderful
to many more
interaction.
conversations so that it impact many people as we can help them, but it has impacted me for now. So winding
Thank you
up
so
on
much.
that,
Thank you.
and pleasure meeting you, sir.
Likewise. Thank you,
Thank you,
and
sir.
good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.